Hey guys, Spirit of the Law here. In this video, we're going to be taking a look at the Saracens and their main economy bonus. The wording of the bonus can be a little confusing to interpret, and just says the market trade cost only 5%, which I remember I used to find one of those bonuses that is easy to read over and instantly forget. In this video though, we're going to investigate these strange, or in this case, maybe more accurate to say bizarre strategies that this bonus enables. It has some pretty surprising implications and allows Saracens to distribute their villagers in ways that other civilizations can't. To begin with, this will be familiar for a lot of you, but it's kind of critical for understanding the rest of the video. So to start with a quick summary of how market prices work, for every resource, there's an invisible fair price to exchange 100 of that resource for gold. That quote, fair price, moves up or down by 3 when anything is bought or sold to mimic supply and demand, and is global for all players. So any buying or selling from any player affects the price for everyone. The starting price is 100 gold for 100 wood or food, and 130 gold for 100 stone. Of course, as you keep selling, the price continues to drop until it reaches a floor of 20. Functionally speaking, there isn't really an upper limit, but if you ask Gaia nicely to tribute you 400,000 gold per second, you can reach it in a reasonable amount of time. The cap is a fair price of 9,999 gold for 100 resources. In practice, buying the price of a resource up to this level would require over 21.6 million gold to reach, which to visualize is roughly the same as a medium-sized map covered in gold tiles. So, like I said, functionally there isn't an upper limit that you have to think about. Now remember, the fair price is invisible, and the prices you see for a generic civilization are 30% lower and higher than that value. 30% is a pretty hefty premium, which is why you generally want to have your villagers distributed in a way that minimizes the amount of market use. After researching the tech guilds, that spread falls to plus or minus 15%, giving you numbers that better reflect the fair price. Even in an optimistic scenario, you need to sell at least 3,000 food or wood to break even on the gold cost of that tech, though there are late game situations where it makes sense to pick up. Saracens, though, have just a 5% trading fee from the start of the game, meaning you always have much more favorable prices when you buy and sell than is possible for any other civilization. Saracens also build markets for less than half the usual cost, so you're incentivized to build one early and make use of this bonus. Those are the market basics, so we're all up to speed, and now let's see the interactions this ends up having with gather rates to enable some unorthodox strategies and exploits. We'll start with stone. Mining stone is about 5% slower than mining gold with the same number of villagers. So from a pure collection rate standpoint, it takes the same amount of work to get 100 gold and 95 stone. We can say those two things have equal value since they take equal time to collect outside of the market and would be a fair exchange rate from an effort standpoint. The market works in batches of 100 for a resource, so correcting for that, it works out to 100 stone for about 105 gold. Interestingly though, the Saracens start with a stone selling price of 123 at the market, as remember stone has a slightly elevated price to begin with. That means for the first 700 stone you sell, you actually generate more gold from mining and selling stone than you do from mining gold directly. After that, the price falls to the point where you'd be better off mining gold. In the process though, you sold 700 stone for 805 gold, whereas spending the same villager time mining gold directly would have only generated 738. The whole trick of going on stone first gets you about 67 extra gold in this case, or roughly a 9% bump in mining efficiency. That means a super optimized play from a gold perspective would be to put your first 5 or so miners on stone to sell at the market, later adding additional miners to gold. That extra step and extra mining camp may not feel worth it, but is theoretically making the best use of your bonus to squeeze a bit of extra efficiency out of your villagers early on. This works in the other direction as well, and if the price to buy stone is less than 105, then you're better off putting your villagers on gold and buying rather than mining stone directly. That's a bit more of an unusual case, but the point is it works both ways. Now, if this is making you wonder why this sort of market use of collecting one resource to indirectly gather another isn't talked about more often, it's because for 38 out of 39 civilizations, it almost never makes sense. For a civilization other than Saracens, the starting sell price of stone is 91, so mining stone to sell is objectively worse than mining gold. Now let's try the same trick again, but with wood. It depends a bit on camp placement and bumping, but with double bit axe, you're getting conservatively 24 wood per minute for each lumberjack. The setup I'm showing, for example, brings in a little over that amount, and certainly isn't an optimal distance. Even in this setup, the numbers would put the fair exchange at 89 gold per 100 wood, and would go slightly lower if you had a particularly efficient setup. The wood price for Saracen starts at 95, which is a higher amount, meaning at least for the first 200 wood you sell, your lumberjacks are able to generate more gold than if they were directly mining it. The effect ends pretty quickly and is nowhere near as good as stone, but considering it delays a mining camp, Saracens could briefly get away with adding a couple of extra lumberjacks as indirect gold miners and actually benefit from doing that. Finally, let's take a look at food. Now, there's really two things to consider here. The first is the farming rate, which is a little over 18 food per minute when you include some doubled up farms. The other consideration though is the upfront 60 wood cost, which before horse collar averages out to about 6 wood per minute that each farm is costing you. Horse collar itself also has a cost, so getting around farming by buying food is a pretty appealing idea. Factoring in the wood cost of the farm, on average, you're getting about 12.5 resources per minute over its lifespan before upgrades, meaning the fair price for buying 100 food is an astounding 173 gold. This implies any price under that and you'd be better off mining gold and buying food than farming it yourself. For context, you need to buy a little over 2,000 food to get the Saracen market up to that price, which should cover at least the majority of the food you need in feudal age. Now, I may be overstating this somewhat, as it includes doubled up farms, no wheelbarrow, and no horse collar. But even after including all of those factors, it only moves the fair price down to 135 gold for 100 food, which is still significantly higher than what's available at the start of feudal, at least for Saracens. The main takeaway is that delaying farms as Saracens and buying the food you need isn't just a matter of convenience, but in fact appears to be optimal based on starting market prices. In fact, it seems the true galaxy brain move is to send all of your would-be farmers onto stone and then use the market, at least for the first little while. This whole topic reminds me of an old strategy guide website from way back in 2006, which actually hit on some of these ideas. A post by H.C. Shanks proposed a Saracen fast feudal into a market and scouts, relying on buying food and delaying farms until Castle Age. I'm certainly not the first to pick up on this, but it's cool to see the numbers backing up a niche build order from 16 years ago. Now, admittedly, these strategies may feel a little extreme, selling wood and stone for gold and buying food, which understandably not everyone is going to feel comfortable embracing. If that's too wild and intimidating, what if instead you just play with a normal economy and use the market in a typical way? Is the Saracen market bonus still giving decent value in that case? To start with feudal age, it wouldn't be unusual to use the market to grab the last 200 food before clicking up to castle, and in that situation, Saracens would spend 51 less gold than any other civilization trying the same thing. Selling your initial 200 stone also gives another 65 extra gold for Saracens as well, which together is a little over 100 extra gold in feudal with some moderate market use. Going a bit more extreme, let's say you hit feudal age and sell 200 stone because you're going all in, but the other player hits castle age and you panic, so you sell 600 wood and buy 500 food to advance. Admittedly, this is a lot of market use, but it's in the realm of possibility. Saracens end that transaction with 217 gold in the bank, while any other civilization would be short 117 gold. You can see that trading fee discount can really add up early. After reaching castle age, let's say you have an imbalanced economy where you end up buying 300 stone for an early castle, 300 wood, and 1,000 food for upgrades and topping up to imperial age. Again, that's heavy market use, but for a ballpark sense, that would approach 500 gold in savings for Saracens. The point is, if you're using the market a fair amount, it seems easy to argue this bonus reaches the hundreds certainly, but probably not quite 1,000 gold in savings before Imperial. Even in the very late game though, this bonus keeps on giving, especially if you're relying on the market in a 1v1. To take an example, let's say you and your opponent have 40 lumberjacks and 50 farmers. Both you and your opponent forgot that relics exist, so your only source of gold is selling at the market, and in that case, how big of an advantage do the Saracens have? Taking some ballpark collection rates, assuming some decent but slightly inefficient farms and camps, both players are generating around 2,300 resources per minute to sell. At bottomed out market prices, Saracens in this case are potentially generating 69 more gold per minute than a civilization with guilds, and 138 more than a civilization without. Assuming you sell half the resources you're collecting, that's a similar advantage to having 1 or 2 extra relics, and potentially more than the effect of the Burgundian Vineyards tech. Admittedly, it's harder to notice because you don't see the gold trickling in, but the Saracen market bonus is a significant advantage in late game 1v1s, and that's on top of the potentially hundreds of gold worth of value we saw in feudal and castle age. So that's the Saracens market. Whether you utilize it by selling your initial stone, mining stone as a substitute for gold, buying food, or just using the market as usual, hopefully this gave a bit of insight about why this is such a cool and underrated bonus. Shout out to Brian, Seb, Jean-Paul, Woodruff, John, Kyle, Juxton, Jockster, Yaos, James, Samantha, and everyone else on Patreon for their amazing support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.